What if I told you that over 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor discovered 7 laws so powerful, so brutally effective, that they could eliminate fear from your life completely? And stick around until the end, because I'm going to give you a complete 30-day practice system that costs nothing, takes just 15 minutes a day, and will fundamentally rewire how you process fear. But you need all 7 laws first to understand why this system works. Not reduce it, not manage it, eliminate it. Marcus Aurelius faced assassination plots, plague, war, and betrayal. Yet he wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here's what nobody tells you about Stoicism. It's not some feel-good philosophy. It's harsh, it's uncomfortable, and it demands you face truths about yourself that most people run from their entire lives. In the next hour, I'm going to walk you through 7 brutal Stoic laws that ancient warriors, emperors, and philosophers used to become absolutely fearless. These aren't motivational quotes, they're psychological weapons that, when applied correctly, will rewire how you process fear, anxiety, and uncertainty forever. Fair warning, some of these laws will make you deeply uncomfortable. That's the point, because on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that nothing can shake. These principles come from Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, who was a slave who became one of history's greatest teachers, and Seneca, who faced exile and execution with absolute calm. These weren't armchair philosophers, they were people who faced real terror and discovered how to transcend it. Let's begin. The first brutal law is the most uncomfortable. Memento Mori. Remember, you will die. Not someday, not eventually. Actually die. Your heart will stop beating. Your consciousness will end. Everything you're worried about right now, every fear you're carrying, will be completely irrelevant. Now, your first reaction might be, that's morbid, that's depressing. But here's the brutal truth the Stoics understood. Your fear of death is the root of almost every other fear you experience. Think about it. Why are you afraid of public speaking? Because you might be judged, rejected, humiliated. But what's the real fear underneath? That you'll be cast out, alone, and unable to survive. A primal fear connected to survival, to death. Why are you afraid of failure? Because it might mean poverty, loss of status, inability to provide. Again, survival fears, death fears wearing different masks. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This wasn't pessimism. This was the ultimate freedom. In the historical example, when Epictetus was a slave, his master broke his leg as punishment. According to ancient accounts, Epictetus calmly said, "You are breaking my leg." And when it finally snapped, he simply stated, "Did I not tell you that you were breaking it?" How do you remain that calm during torture? Because Epictetus had already accepted the worst possible outcome, his own death. Once you've accepted that you will die, that it could happen at any moment, physical pain becomes just sensation. Humiliation becomes just noise. Failure becomes just information.
Here's how you apply this brutally effective law today. Every morning, spend 60 seconds visualizing your death, not in a morbid way, but factually. Imagine your funeral. Who would come? What would they say? What regrets would you have? Now ask yourself, based on that reality, what should I do today? This practice, done daily, recalibrates your entire fear response. That presentation you're nervous about, memento mori, you're going to die anyway, might as well say what needs to be said. That relationship conversation you're avoiding, memento mori, your time is finite, stop wasting it in fear. When you truly internalize that your death is certain and its timing is uncertain, you stop living in hypothetical fears and start living in actual reality. The reason most people fear everything is because they've never faced the one fear that underlies all others, their own mortality. You're building a life trying to avoid death, which is insane because death is the only guaranteed outcome. Memento mori doesn't make you reckless, it makes you ruthlessly focused on what actually matters. The Stoics who practiced this weren't depressed nihilists, they were the most vibrant, courageous, effective people in history, because they weren't wasting energy on phantom fears. Your death is coming. That's not negative, that's the most liberating fact you can internalize. It means you can stop performing for people who won't remember you in 100 years. You can stop fearing outcomes that won't matter when you're gone. You can finally live.
The second brutal law, Amor Fati, love your fate. Not accept it, not tolerate it, love it. This is where Stoicism separates the practitioners from the pretenders. Anyone can say they accept what happens to them, but can you genuinely love the worst thing that's ever happened to you? Can you look at your greatest failure, your deepest trauma, your most painful loss and say, I wouldn't change a thing? That's Amor Fati, and it's absolutely brutal. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is the core of Amor Fati. Whatever happens to you, your job isn't to wish it were different. Your job is to use it as fuel. Most people spend their entire lives at war with reality. They think, if only this hadn't happened, I'd be happy. If only they hadn't betrayed me, if only I hadn't failed. This is psychological poison, because you're basing your peace of mind on changing something that's already happened, which is literally impossible. Amor Fati says, what if the worst thing that happened to you was actually the best thing? Not because it felt good, but because it made you who you needed to become. Epictetus was enslaved as a child. His leg was permanently damaged by his master. He spent his youth in chains, powerless, abused. By conventional thinking, his life was destroyed before it began. But Epictetus later wrote, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." His enslavement became the foundation of his philosophy. He became one of the most influential teachers in human history, specifically because he learned to transform suffering into wisdom. Would he have developed that philosophy living a comfortable aristocratic life? Would his teachings on freedom have the same power if he'd never been enslaved? The brutal answer, probably not. This doesn't justify slavery or suffering. It reveals a deeper truth. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control whether it destroys you or forges you into something stronger.
Here's the practice.
Take the worst thing that's happened to you in the last year. Write it down. Now complete this sentence. This was actually necessary because. Force yourself to find the hidden advantage. The relationship that ended, it revealed incompatibilities that would have caused worse pain later. The job you lost, it freed you to find work that actually aligned with your values. The betrayal, it taught you to trust your intuition and set better boundaries. This isn't toxic positivity. This is the refusal to let circumstances defeat you psychologically. Amor Fati is the ultimate anti-victim mentality. It says, I will use everything, waste nothing, and emerge from every situation more capable than I entered it. Now, before we get to Law 3, remember, these 7 laws build on each other. And at the end of this video, I'm giving you the exact daily practice system that ties all 7 together. Miss one law, and the system won't work, so stay with me. The third brutal law, Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. Deliberately imagine everything that could go wrong in vivid detail before it happens. This is the opposite of what modern self-help tells you. You're told to think positive, to visualize success, to manifest abundance. The Stoics said, visualize disaster. Regularly imagine losing everything you have. See yourself failing spectacularly. Picture your worst fears coming true. Why? Because fear thrives in the unknown. What you've already mentally survived can't terrify you when it actually happens. Seneca wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." This is psychological inoculation. Just like a vaccine exposes you to a weakened form of a virus so your immune system can handle the real thing, Premeditatio Malorum exposes you to imagined adversity so your mind can handle real adversity. Most people are blindsided by setbacks because they've spent 0 time preparing for them mentally. They've only visualized success, so when failure comes, their entire psychological framework collapses. They have no plan, no resilience, no strategy. They're completely unprepared. The Stoic does the opposite. Every day they spend time imagining, what if I lose my job? What if this relationship ends? What if I fail publicly? What if I lose all my money? And crucially, what would I do? How would I respond? Who would I be? Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome, the most powerful position on earth at the time. Yet in his meditations, he regularly reminded himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Was he being pessimistic? No, he was being prepared. By anticipating difficulty, nothing could catch him off guard. When generals betrayed him, when plague ravaged his empire, when his own son proved incompetent, Marcus didn't collapse into victim mentality. He'd already mentally rehearsed these scenarios. This is why he could write during Rome's darkest hours, "The impediment to action advances action.
What stands in the way becomes the way. He wasn't improvising resilience in crisis. He'd built it through daily mental preparation.
Here's the brutal practice. Every Sunday, spend 20 minutes doing a fear audit. List everything you're worried about. Then, for each item, write out, worst-case scenario. What's the absolute worst that could happen? Likely outcome. What will probably actually happen? Response plan. If the worst case happens, what exactly will I do? Growth opportunity. How would surviving this make me stronger? Let's use a real example. You're afraid of getting fired. Worst case, you lose your job tomorrow with no savings. Likely outcome, you'd have notice, severance, unemployment benefits. Response plan, apply to 10 jobs per day, take freelance work, reduce expenses, move if necessary. Growth opportunity, you'd discover you're more resilient than you thought. You'd be forced to pursue work you actually care about instead of settling for security. The brutal truth. Right now, you're being controlled by vague, undefined fears. They lurk in your subconscious, making you anxious and risk-averse. Premeditatio Malorum forces those fears into the light where you can examine them rationally. And here's what you discover. Most of your fears are either highly unlikely or completely survivable. The thing you've been terrified of, you'd actually handle it. Maybe not perfectly, but adequately. And on the other side, you'd be okay. Probably better than okay, because you'd have proven to yourself that you can handle hard things. This practice doesn't make you paranoid, it makes you confident, because you've mentally survived everything already. Public humiliation, already lived through it mentally. Financial loss, already developed a plan. Rejection, already processed it emotionally. When you've premeditated adversity, you stop walking through life in fear of the other shoe dropping. You've already mentally caught the shoe, examined it, and developed 12 contingency plans. Reality can't ambush you anymore. You're ready for anything.
Okay, pause for a second. We're 3 laws deep, and I need to be honest with you. Most people will watch this entire video, feel inspired, and do absolutely nothing with it. They'll go back to being controlled by the same fears they had before clicking. But at the end of this video, I'm giving you a 30-day challenge that separates the people who just consume content from the people who actually transform. It's completely free, takes 15 minutes a day, and it will fundamentally change how you experience fear. But here's the thing. That challenge only works if you understand all 7 laws first. So if you are serious about becoming fearless, keep watching. If you just want entertainment, this probably isn't for you. Now, let's get to Law 4.
Law 4. The Dichotomy of Control. Focus only on what you control. The 4th brutal law is the most foundational, the dichotomy of control. There are things you control and things you don't control. Your only job is to focus completely on the former and be utterly indifferent
to the latter. This sounds simple. It's not, because it requires you to let go of approximately 95% of what you currently worry about. Epictetus opened his Enchiridion, his manual for living, with this: "Some things are within our control, and some things are not. It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness become possible." What do you actually control? Your thoughts, your intentions, your responses, your effort. That's basically it. What don't you control? Other people's opinions, outcomes, the past, the future, other people's choices, your reputation, the economy, your health, whether you succeed or fail, literally everything else. Most people spend 90% of their mental energy on things in the second category and 10% on the first. The Stoics invert this completely. They pour 100% of their focus into the only things they actually control, and they're completely unmoved by everything else. When Epictetus was told his master was about to break his leg, he didn't beg, he didn't try to escape, he didn't protest the injustice. Why? Because none of those things were within his control at that moment. His leg breaking or not breaking wasn't his choice. His master's cruelty wasn't his choice. What was in his control? His response, his inner state, his interpretation of the event. So he focused entirely on maintaining composure, on seeing the event clearly, on remaining philosophically grounded. The physical pain came and went. His inner peace remained untouched. This is the brutal power of the dichotomy of control. When you truly internalize it, you become psychologically invincible, because nothing outside your control can disturb you, and everything inside your control is something you can work with. Here's the practice that will transform your life. For the next 7 days, every time you feel anxious or upset, stop and ask, "Is this within my control?" Your boss criticized your work. Can you control their opinion? No. Can you control whether you learn from the feedback and improve? Yes. Your partner seems distant. Can you control their feelings? No. Can you control whether you communicate honestly about your concerns? Yes. You're worried about tomorrow's presentation. Can you control the outcome? No. Can you control your preparation, your effort, your attitude? Yes. Here's the brutal part. Once you identify something as outside your control, you must become completely indifferent to it. Not suppress your feelings, not pretend it doesn't matter, but genuinely release any attachment to controlling it. The reason you're anxious is because you're trying to control things you can't control. You're trying to control other people's opinions. You're trying to control outcomes. You're trying to control circumstances. And every single day, reality reminds you that you can't. So you feel powerless, anxious, fearful. But here's what the Stoics discovered. When you release your grip on what you can't control and focus entirely on what you can, you don't lose power, you gain it. because you stop wasting energy on impossible tasks and pour it all into the few things that actually respond to your effort. Can you control whether people like you? No. Can you control being someone worth liking? Yes. Can you control whether you succeed? No. Can you control giving yourself the best possible chance? Yes. Can you control what happens to you? No. Can you control who you become because of it? Yes. This is the most liberating and most brutal realization simultaneously. You have far less control than you think, and far more responsibility than you want. Less control over outcomes, more responsibility for your responses. Less control over circumstances, more responsibility for your character. When you fully embrace the dichotomy of control, fear starts to evaporate, because fear is always about something outside your control. You can't fear what you've already released. You can only work diligently on what's yours to work on and be indifferent to everything else.
We're at the halfway point. You now know 4 of the 7 brutal laws. But here's what most people don't realize. Knowing these laws intellectually does nothing. At the end of this video, I'm revealing the 30-day challenge that actually transforms knowledge into fearlessness. Keep watching. The 5th brutal law, voluntary discomfort. Deliberately make your life harder. Choose pain. Seek out difficulty. Not because you're masochistic, but because comfort is the enemy of growth and resilience. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Translation: regularly put yourself through the hardships you fear so they lose their power over you. Here's the brutal truth about modern life. You're soft. We all are. We live in unprecedented comfort, temperature-controlled environments, food delivered to our door, entertainment on demand, pain avoided at all costs. And what has this comfort produced? The most anxious, depressed, fearful generation in history, because we've become so unaccustomed to discomfort that even minor hardship feels catastrophic. The Stoics understood that resilience is like a muscle. If you never stress it, it atrophies. If you always take the easy path, the hard path becomes impossible. If you always choose comfort, discomfort becomes terrifying. Voluntary discomfort is deliberately choosing to be cold, hungry, tired, or uncomfortable when you don't have to be. Not to punish yourself, but to train yourself, to prove to yourself that you can handle difficulty, to build psychological and physical resilience. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He could have lived in absolute luxury every single day. Instead, he regularly practiced voluntary poverty. He'd sleep on a hard floor, eat only bread and water for days, wear rough clothing, walk long distances in bad weather. Why? Because he knew that fortune could reverse at any moment, and if he'd become dependent on luxury, losing it would destroy him psychologically. But if he regularly practiced discomfort, then losing his wealth would just be another Tuesday. And this wasn't hypothetical.
Seneca was eventually exiled, stripped of his possessions, and ordered to commit suicide by Emperor Nero. According to accounts, he faced his execution with complete calm, even comforting his distraught friends. How? Because he'd been mentally and physically preparing for hardship his entire life. Here's your brutal practice menu. Choose at least 3 to implement this month. Cold exposure. Take a 3-minute cold shower every morning. The immediate discomfort is harmless and builds mental toughness. Your mind will scream at you to turn it warm. Don't. Breathe through it. Realize you can endure. Fasting. Skip a meal per day or fast for 24 hours once a week. Experience hunger. Realize it won't kill you. Discover that most of your need to eat is habit, not biology. Physical challenge. Do something that scares you physically. A long run, heavy weights, a difficult hike. Push to the point where your body says stop and then go a little further. Expand your threshold. Digital fast. Go 24 hours with no phone, no internet, no entertainment. Sit with boredom. Face your own thoughts. Realize you don't need constant stimulation to be okay. Voluntary poverty. Spend a week living on $20. Eat cheap food. Don't buy anything unnecessary. Realize how little you actually need to survive. Social discomfort. Have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Say no to something you'd usually say yes to. Set a boundary. Endure the temporary discomfort of possible conflict or disapproval.
The brutal truth. You're afraid of discomfort because you never experience it voluntarily. So when it arrives involuntarily through circumstances, you collapse. You have no reference point for handling difficulty because you've spent your entire life avoiding it. Voluntary discomfort flips the script. You're no longer a victim of hardship. You're a practitioner of it. Cold weather? You've deliberately frozen yourself. Hunger? You've deliberately fasted. Exhaustion? You've deliberately pushed your limits. Social rejection? You've deliberately risked it. This doesn't make you immune to pain. It makes you competent at handling it. There's a massive difference between someone who's never been punched learning to box versus someone who's been training for years. Same punch, completely different response. When you regularly choose discomfort, you build what the Stoics called the inner citadel, an unshakable core that circumstances can't breach. Comfort didn't build that. Deliberate hardship did. The most fearless people alive aren't comfortable people. They're people who've proven to themselves repeatedly that they can handle being uncomfortable. Once you know you can endure cold, hunger, pain, rejection, and boredom, what's left to fear? Literally nothing. The sixth brutal law: negative visualization. Regularly imagine losing everything you currently have: your loved ones, your health, your possessions, your status, everything. This might sound depressing. It's actually the key to genuine appreciation and psychological preparation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours. Here's the psychology. You adapt to everything. That apartment you were so excited to get, within 3 months you don't even notice it. That relationship you cherish, familiarity breeds complacency. That health you enjoy, you assume it's permanent until it isn't. Negative visualization combats hedonic adaptation. It forces you to see what you have as temporary, fragile, borrowed. Not to make you paranoid, but to make you grateful. And gratitude is the antidote to fear. But there's a second function, preparation. When you regularly visualize loss, you're mentally rehearsing how you'd handle it. So if it actually happens, you're not starting from zero emotionally. You've already processed the initial shock in your imagination. Epictetus taught his students, with regard to whatever objects give you delight, are useful, or are deeply loved, remind yourself of what general nature they are, beginning from the most insignificant things. If, for example, you are fond of a specific ceramic cup, remind yourself that it is only ceramic cups in general of which you are fond. Then, if it breaks, you will not be disturbed. He applied this to everything, including people. When you kiss your child, he wrote, say to yourself, tomorrow you may be dead. This sounds cruel. It's actually the highest form of love, because when you're aware that every moment with someone could be the last, you don't take them for granted. You don't waste time on petty conflicts. You love them fully, right now. Epictetus himself lost everything multiple times, enslaved, freed, exiled, impoverished. But because he'd mentally rehearsed loss constantly, he remained psychologically stable through every reversal. He expected impermanence, so impermanence could.
Here's the daily practice. Every night before sleep, visualize losing one thing you value. Rotate through different categories. Monday, relationships. Imagine your partner or closest friend is gone tomorrow. Really feel it. What would you regret not saying? What would you wish you'd done differently? Now wake up and actually do those things. Tuesday, health. Visualize waking up unable to walk, or blind, or with a terminal diagnosis. How would that change your priorities? What would suddenly matter? What would you stop wasting time on? Wednesday, possessions. Imagine your house burns down, everything gone. What would you actually miss? What would you realize didn't matter at all? How would you rebuild? Thursday, career. Visualize losing your job and reputation tomorrow. Professional identity gone. Now what? Who are you without that title? What would you do? Friday, abilities. Imagine losing a core ability, your intelligence, your attractiveness, your skills. What's left? Is there still value in who you are? Saturday, freedom. Imagine being imprisoned or severely limited, no control over your schedule, location, or choices. What internal freedom would remain? Sunday, life itself. Imagine tonight is your last night alive. Tomorrow you won't exist. What matters right now? What doesn't? The brutal truth. Everything you have is temporary. Your health will fail. Your relationships will end, either through separation or death. Your possessions will break or be lost. Your status will fade. Your life will end. These aren't pessimistic predictions, they're facts. Most people live in denial of this fact. They assume permanence where none exists. So when loss inevitably comes, they're devastated. Not just sad, which is natural and healthy, but psychologically destroyed, because they never prepared. Negative visualization is the refusal to be blindsided by reality. You're not hoping for loss, you're acknowledging its inevitability and appreciating what you have while you have it. Here's the paradox. When you regularly imagine losing everything, you fear loss less and appreciate life more. The person who assumes their partner will always be there takes them for granted. The person who knows their partner could be gone tomorrow treasures every moment. This practice doesn't make you depressed, it makes you present, it makes you grateful, it makes you wise, because you're living in reality, not in the fantasy that everything good will last forever. When you've mentally survived losing everything, you're no longer controlled by the fear of loss. You know that even if the worst happens, you'll still be you. Stripped of everything external, your core remains, and that core is unbreakable because it doesn't depend on anything outside itself.
One law left. And then I'm going to show you exactly how to practice all 7 in just 15 minutes per day. This is the part that changes everything, so don't skip ahead. You need the final law to complete the system. The 7th and final brutal law, the view from above. Regularly zoom out and see your life, your problems, and your fears from a cosmic perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Constantly picture the universe as a single living being, comprising a single substance and a single soul, and observe how all things are referred to the single consciousness of this being, and how it does all things by a single impulse, and how all existing things are joint causes of all things that come into existence, and how all things are connected by one thread." Translation: your problems are not as significant as you think they are. Here's the brutal truth. You are cosmically insignificant. You're one of 8 billion humans on a planet that's one of trillions in a universe that's existed for 13.8 billion years and will exist for trillions more. That embarrassing thing that happened to you last week? In 100 years, everyone who witnessed it will be dead, and no one will remember. That failure you're devastated by? In 1,000 years, no record of it will exist. That success you're so proud of? Same thing, forgotten, irrelevant, dust. This isn't nihilism, this is perspective, and perspective is the antidote to fear. Most of your fears exist because you're trapped in your own narrow point of view. You're zoomed in so close that every minor setback feels catastrophic. Every criticism feels world-ending,
Every uncertainty feels unbearable. The view from above forces you to zoom out, to see yourself as you actually are, a temporary biological organism on a random planet experiencing a brief moment of consciousness before returning to the void from which you came. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man alive, regularly practiced this perspective. In his private journal, he wrote, "Asia and Europe, mere corners of the universe. Every sea, a drop in the ocean. Mount Athos, a grain of sand in the universe. The present moment, a point in eternity. All things are petty, easily changed, vanishing away." This is the most powerful man on earth, deliberately shrinking his own importance. Why? Because he understood that ego and fear are directly correlated. The bigger you think you are, the more you have to fear. The more accurately you see your actual size in the cosmos, the less there is to threaten. When Germanic tribes invaded, when plague killed millions, when his own generals betrayed him, Marcus returned to this cosmic perspective, not to minimize real suffering, but to maintain clear judgment, to not be overwhelmed by the temporary drama of human affairs.
Whenever you're anxious, afraid, or overwhelmed, do this mental zoom-out exercise. Level 1. The room. See yourself in the room you're in right now. You're one person in one room in one moment. This fear you're feeling, is it the only thing happening in this room? Or is there also air, light, quiet? Put the fear in context. Level 2. The city. Zoom out. See your city from above. Thousands or millions of people, all living their own lives, having their own problems. Your specific fear, where is it in this view? It's invisible, insignificant. Level 3. The planet. Zoom out further. See Earth from space. 8 billion people. Wars, births, deaths, loves, losses, all happening simultaneously. Your fear, can you even locate it from here? No, it's too small. Level 4. The solar system. Zoom out more. Earth is now a pale blue dot. Your entire life, everyone you've ever known, every human drama that's ever occurred, happened on that tiny speck. Your current fear is a microscopic event on a microscopic moment on a microscopic planet. Level 5. The galaxy. Zoom out to see the Milky Way. 100 to 400 billion stars. Earth is now invisible. Your fear? It doesn't exist at this scale. It can't. It's too small to register. Return. Now zoom back into the room. You're still here. The fear might still be here, but you've seen it in its actual context. How much power does it have now? The brutal truth. Your fears feel enormous because you're experiencing them from inside your own skull, where they take up 100% of your conscious attention. But they're actually infinitesimally small when viewed from any reasonable perspective. That public speaking fear? In a year, no one will remember your presentation. In a century, everyone in the audience will be dead. In a millennium, no record of the event will exist. So why are you treating it like a life or death situation? That relationship anxiety? In the cosmic scale, human relationships are brief chemical reactions between temporary organisms. Meaningful? Absolutely. Worth experiencing fully? Yes. Worth being controlled by fear over? No. The view from above doesn't diminish what matters, it clarifies what matters. Love is still worth experiencing. Growth is still worth pursuing. Connection is still valuable. But catastrophizing over outcomes, letting fear paralyze you, treating temporary setbacks as permanent disasters, that's revealed as the delusion it always was. Here's the liberating brutality of this perspective. If nothing you do matters on a cosmic scale, then you're free to do what matters on a human scale. You can't succeed or fail in any ultimate sense because the universe has no opinion about your life. So you might as well pursue what's meaningful to you. Love who you love, create what you want to create, and stop being afraid of judgment from beings who are equally insignificant. The view from above doesn't make you care less, it makes you care about the right things. Fear of judgment, cosmically irrelevant. The quality of your character, that's actually yours to control, so it's worth focusing on. Fear of failure, meaningless on any serious timescale. The effort you put in, that's real and present, so give it everything. When you regularly practice seeing yourself from a cosmic perspective, you develop what the Stoics called indifference to indifference. Everything external to your character becomes contextual, temporary, ultimately unimportant. Only your choices, your intentions. So here we are. 7 brutal Stoic laws that will make you fear nothing. Memento Mori. Remember you will die, so stop living like you won't. Amor Fati. Love your fate. Transform every obstacle into fuel. Premeditatio Malorum. Premeditate adversity. Fear nothing, you've already survived mentally. Dichotomy of Control. Focus only on what you control. Release everything else. Voluntary Discomfort. Seek hardship deliberately. Build unshakable resilience. Negative Visualization. Imagine loss daily. Appreciate what you have while you have it. View from above. See yourself from space. Shrink your problems to their actual size. Now here's the truth that most people won't accept. Watching this video changes nothing. You can understand these principles intellectually and still be controlled by fear tomorrow. You can nod along, feel inspired for 20 minutes, then return to the exact same anxious, fearful, hesitant version of yourself you were before you clicked this video. Knowledge without practice is just entertainment. And if all you do is consume this content without implementing it, you're not becoming fearless. You're becoming a Stoicism hobbyist. You're collecting philosophical concepts like trading cards instead of forging yourself into something unbreakable.
The ancient Stoics didn't write books to create an intellectual fan club. They wrote manuals for psychological transformation. They expected you to do the work, not just understand it.
So here's what separates the people who actually become fearless from the people who just think about becoming fearless. The 30-day Stoic Challenge. For the next 30 days, you're going to practice all 7 laws. Not pick your favorites, not do the easy ones. All 7. Every single day. Your daily practice, 15 minutes total. Morning, 5 minutes. Memento Mori. Spend 60 seconds visualizing your death. Then ask, based on my mortality, what should I do today? Premeditatio Malorum. Spend 2 minutes imagining one thing that could go wrong today. Plan your response. Dichotomy of Control. Spend 2 minutes listing what you'll focus on, things you control, and what you'll release, things you don't. Throughout the day, voluntary discomfort. Do one hard thing. Cold shower, skip a meal, have a difficult conversation, push your workout further than comfortable. Choose one deliberately uncomfortable action. Amor, Fati. When something goes wrong, and it will, immediately ask, how is this actually necessary? What's the hidden advantage? Force yourself to find it. Evening. Negative visualization. Spend 5 minutes imagining losing something you value. Really feel it. Then appreciate that you still have it right now. View from above. Spend 5 minutes doing the cosmic zoom-out exercise on your biggest fear or problem from today. Watch it shrink to its actual size. The commitment. 30 days. That's it. Not a year. Not a lifetime commitment. Just 30 consecutive days of practicing these 7 laws for 15 minutes per day. Here's what will happen. Week 1. You'll feel resistance. Your brain will tell you this is uncomfortable, unnecessary, maybe even harmful. That's your fear of change talking. Push through. Week 2, you'll notice small shifts. A situation that would have made you anxious doesn't. A fear that used to paralyze you becomes just information. You'll start to feel the training working. Week 3, people around you will notice. You'll respond to setbacks differently. You'll seem calmer under pressure. You'll take risks you used to avoid. The transformation becomes visible. Week 4, you'll realize you've fundamentally changed how you process fear. It's not that nothing bothers you. It's that you have a system for handling everything. You've become, in the truest sense, unfearable. But here's the brutal question you need to answer right now. Are you going to do this? Or are you going to close this video, feel momentarily inspired, and then return to being controlled by the same fears that have been running your life for years? Because that's the choice. There's no middle ground. You either commit to the practice and transform, or you don't and you stay the same. Passive interest in Stoicism is worthless. Active practice of Stoicism is life-changing. If you're serious about this, here's what you do right now, not later, right now. Step 1. Open your Notes app or grab a piece of paper. Write at the top, 30-Day Stoic Challenge, Day 1, today's date. Step 2. Set 3 daily alarms. Morning alarm. Stoic morning practice, 5 minutes. Midday alarm. Voluntary discomfort. Choose hardship. Evening alarm. Stoic evening practice, 10 minutes. Step 4. Commit publicly. Comment below, starting the 30-day Stoic challenge today. Just that sentence. This creates public accountability. You're 42% more likely to complete something when you've stated your intention publicly. Step 4. Do today's practice before you go to bed tonight. Not tomorrow, tonight. Prove to yourself that you're actually doing this, not just thinking about doing it.
The promise. If you do this, genuinely do this for 30 days, you will not be the same person at the end. You won't completely eliminate fear. That's not the goal. Fear is information. But you will eliminate fear's control over you. You'll process it, learn from it, and act anyway. You won't become some emotionless robot. You'll become someone who feels deeply but isn't controlled by feelings, who loves fully but isn't destroyed by loss, who pursues goals intensely but isn't devastated by failure. You'll become what the Stoics called wise, someone who sees reality clearly, accepts what is, focuses on what they control, and remains psychologically unshakable regardless of circumstances. The final truth. 2,000 years ago, a slave named Epictetus, an emperor named Marcus Aurelius, and a philosopher named Seneca discovered something that most people never learn. Fear is optional. Not the emotion of fear, that's biology, but being controlled by fear, letting it dictate your choices, living a smaller life because you're afraid, that's optional. That's a choice. You can choose differently starting today. These 7 brutal laws are your tools. They're not theory. They're not philosophy for academic discussion. They're weapons for psychological warfare against fear itself. The question is, will you use them?
Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, never intending for anyone else to read it, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Stop arguing about whether you should become fearless. Stop thinking about it. Stop planning to start someday. Start today. Start now. Take the 30-day Stoic challenge. And 30 days from now, come back and tell me I was wrong about what this practice can do for you. I'll wait. Because you won't be able to. You'll be too busy living the life that fear used to prevent you from living. Comment Day 1 below right now. Set those 3 alarms. Do tonight's practice before sleep. Your fearless life starts the moment you decide it does. The question is that moment now? If you got value from this video, subscribe, because I'm releasing a 90-day Advanced Stoic Practices series next month that goes even deeper than this, but only if you've actually done the 30-day challenge. No more theory, only practice, only transformation. Now go, practice, become unfearable.